Imagine this: a young Marcus Aurelius, not yet an emperor but already feeling the weight of expectations on his shoulders, sits across from his teacher, Marcus Cornelius Fronto. The two are deep in conversation, and you can almost feel the intensity between them. Fronto leans forward and asks, "What do you think it means to be a leader, Marcus? Is it power? Is it control?" Aurelius, thoughtful as ever, takes a moment before responding. "It's duty. It's doing what's right, even when no one is watching." Fronto nods, but doesn't let him off easy. "And how will you know what's right? How will you make sure your actions are guided by wisdom and not ego? This isn't a conversation about ruling an empire. It's about mastering oneself." And that was Fronto's gift. He wasn't just teaching rhetoric. He was shaping the hearts and minds of leaders, instilling in them a deep sense of virtue, wisdom, and responsibility. It's these lessons that stayed with Marcus Aurelius throughout his reign, as he would go on to become one of the most respected and philosophical emperors in Roman history. Marcus Cornelius Fronto wasn't just an orator. He was a mentor, a guide, someone who believed that the key to greatness wasn't found in titles or wealth, but in character. He knew that the path to wisdom wasn't easy, but he dedicated his life to teaching those willing to learn how to navigate it. Fronto's approach to teaching was deeply personal. He didn't believe in a one-size-fits-all method. Instead, he focused on understanding the unique strengths and weaknesses of each student. Whether it was Marcus Aurelius or another young Roman, Fronto tailored his lessons to meet the individual's needs, pushing them to question their own beliefs, reflect on their choices, and constantly strive to be better. Fronto didn't just teach for the sake of knowledge. He taught for the sake of growth. He understood that life would throw countless challenges their way, and he wanted them to be ready to lead, to think critically, and to stay true to their values, even in the face of adversity. And that's where this story truly begins. Because whether you're trying to figure out who you are, or an emperor responsible for an entire empire, the challenges are real. Life doesn't come with a manual. But the teachings of Fronto and these next figures, they're the blueprints for resilience, wisdom, and growth. For a moment, let's go back to Marcus Aurelius. By the time he became emperor, Rome was facing political upheaval, wars, and a plague that threatened the very stability of the empire. Yet despite the external chaos, Aurelius remained composed, thoughtful, and deliberate in his actions. How? Because of Fronto's teachings. Fronto had prepared him for these very moments, not by teaching him strategy or warfare, but by helping him build a foundation of resilience and inner strength. He taught Aurelius how to think, how to reflect, and how to remain calm in the storm. These were not just lessons for an emperor. These were lessons for life, and that's exactly what you need to thrive today. The world is chaotic. There's pressure from every direction: school, social media, friendships, family expectations. It's easy to feel overwhelmed. But just like Fronto's teachings helped Aurelius navigate the challenges of his world, they can help you navigate yours. You don't need to be a Roman emperor to apply these principles. The truth is, resilience is built in everyday moments. It's built when you choose to keep going even when things get tough. It's built when you take a moment to breathe, reflect, and think before you react. Fronto's approach to teaching was about helping his students develop that kind of mental strength. He encouraged them to question their assumptions, to seek wisdom from experience, and to understand that true power comes from within. Fronto wasn't the only figure to focus on resilience. Let's shift gears and talk about someone who took an entirely different approach to life's challenges, teaching a different kind of strength. A man walking through the bustling streets of Athens, dressed in simple, worn clothing that sharply contrasts with the fine robes of the city's wealthy elite. One day, a rich Athenian, amused by Antisthenes' appearance, mocks him in public, asking why someone as poor as him would choose to live so humbly. Without missing a beat, Antisthenes looks him straight in the eye and replies, "I would rather be free with nothing than be enslaved by everything." The crowd, initially laughing at the philosopher, falls silent. In that moment, Antisthenes wasn't just defending his lifestyle, he was challenging the very foundation of what society valued. To him, true freedom came from rejecting society's expectations and living by his own terms, no matter how unconventional. Antisthenes, the founder of Cynicism, was born in Athens around 445 BCE, was a student of Socrates. He wasn't interested in the superficial aspects of success that so many people chase. In fact, he openly rejected them. He once said, "I would rather be a beggar than a philosopher," not because he didn't value wisdom, but because he believed that wisdom was found in living a life of virtue, not in intellectualism or material wealth. He believed that true happiness came from living in accordance with nature, from stripping away the distractions of society and focusing on what truly mattered: virtue, integrity, and self-discipline. Imagine the world Antisthenes lived in, an Athens filled with wealth, power, and prestige. And yet, here he was, telling people that none of it mattered, that the key to a fulfilling life wasn't found in riches or accolades, but in rejecting those very things and focusing on what you could control: your own actions, your own values, and your own mindset. So how does Antisthenes teach us about resilience? It's simple. He believed that by embracing simplicity, by letting go of societal pressures, we could find clarity and strength. In a world that constantly tells you that you need to be more successful, more popular, more everything, Antisthenes reminds us that sometimes you just need to be enough for yourself. He taught that resilience wasn't about bouncing back from challenges. It was about not letting those challenges define you in the first place. It was about staying grounded in your values, staying true to yourself, and not being swayed by the opinions or expectations of others. When life throws challenges your way, Antisthenes would tell you to strip it down to the basics. What can you control? What's really important? And how can you respond in a way that's true to who you are? Now, picture a man standing in front of a crowd at the Olympic Games. His reputation as a master of many subjects, philosophy, mathematics, and rhetoric, preceded him. But today, he was here to showcase something different. With a confident smile, he promised the audience that he could recall every detail of the speeches he had heard over the past year, without a single note in hand. The crowd, skeptical but intrigued, leaned in as Hippias effortlessly began to recite speech after speech, word for word. As the crowd's skepticism turned to awe, Hippias paused, looked out at them, and said, "The mind when trained, can achieve what seems impossible. It is our greatest tool, if only we learn how to use it. In that moment, Hippias wasn't just impressing his audience with a memory trick. He was showing them the true power of mental discipline and mastery. Hippias, born around 460 BCE, was known for his memory techniques, which he used to help students retain information and excel in public speaking. In a time when knowledge was power, and being able to recall information quickly and accurately was a huge advantage, Hippias's techniques were revolutionary. He taught students to associate new information with familiar images, creating vivid mental pictures that made it easier to remember complex ideas. One of his favorite methods was what we now call the method of Loci, or the memory palace technique, where individuals would visualize a journey through a familiar location, linking each stop with a piece of information. Hippias understood that memory wasn't just about remembering facts. It was about developing mental discipline. It was about training the mind to be organized, focused, and sharp. In a way, his memory techniques were a form of resilience. When you can control your thoughts, when you can retain and recall information with ease, you're better equipped to handle the challenges life throws your way. Imagine being able to walk into a test, a speech, or even a tough conversation with all the information you need, ready at your fingertips. That's what Hippias was teaching, how to build mental strength and use it to your advantage. So what do these three ancient figures have in common? Fronto taught resilience through reflection and self-awareness, helping students build mental strength. Antisthenes showed us that true strength comes from simplicity, from focusing on what we can control and rejecting societal pressures. And Hippias? He taught us how to master our minds, to harness the power of memory and use it to overcome challenges. In the modern day, you're facing a world full of challenges, some big, some small. The lessons from these figures can guide you through those challenges, helping you build the kind of mental resilience that will not only help you survive, but thrive. Fronto didn't teach in the traditional sense of standing in front of a classroom and lecturing. He was deeply personal in his approach, customizing his lessons based on the individual needs of his students. He realized that Marcus Aurelius, though already wise beyond his years, was burdened by the weight of his future role as emperor. Aurelius felt the immense pressure of responsibility, and Fronto knew that teaching him facts or theories wasn't going to help him cope with the reality of ruling an empire. Instead, Fronto took Aurelius under his wing, focusing on developing his moral character. One day, Fronto asked Aurelius a simple but profound question. What kind of ruler do you want to be remembered as? This wasn't about power or glory. It was about integrity and virtue. It was a reminder that leadership isn't about titles, it's about service. Fronto's method wasn't just about teaching Aurelius how to lead. It was about teaching him how to be human. Fronto's lessons didn't end with philosophy. He worked tirelessly to improve Aurelius's communication skills, knowing that an emperor needed to not only think wisely, but speak wisely. This leads us into one of the key aspects of Fronto's legacy, his mastery of rhetoric. Fronto believed that words had power, the power to influence, to inspire, and to lead. In ancient Rome, rhetoric wasn't just a skill for politicians, it was a way of life. Fronto was a master of rhetoric, and he taught his students that the ability to communicate effectively was just as important as any other skill. He would often have his students practice speeches, debates, and even impromptu discussions. He once told Aurelius, "A great mind is nothing without the ability to communicate its ideas." He believed that the ability to articulate thoughts clearly and persuasively was essential for leadership. Fronto's methods were rigorous. He pushed his students to dissect classical texts, pulling apart every word and analyzing its meaning. He taught them how to use vivid imagery, emotional appeals, and logical arguments to captivate and persuade an audience. His emphasis on rhetoric wasn't just about speaking well, it was about thinking well. Through these exercises, his students developed the ability to approach challenges with clarity, structure, and purpose. And this is where the importance of communication comes in for you. You might not be leading an empire, but learning how to communicate effectively is just as vital. Whether you're trying to express your thoughts in school, among friends, or online, being able to clearly communicate your ideas can make a world of difference. You don't have to be the loudest voice in the room, just the clearest. While Fronto's teachings centered on communication and leadership, Antisthenes was all about living authentically, walking the talk. After hearing Socrates speak about virtue and ethics, Antisthenes was so moved that he dedicated his life to these principles. He famously rejected the luxurious life that Athens had to offer and lived with only the bare essentials. This was no gimmick. Antisthenes truly believed that happiness came from living a life free from unnecessary possessions and focusing on what really mattered: virtue. He once said, "I would rather have madness than pleasure." It was a powerful statement about how he saw the world. To Antisthenes, chasing pleasure was like chasing a shadow. You'd never catch it. But by rejecting the pursuit of material wealth and focusing on personal integrity, he believed that true contentment could be found. Antisthenes didn't just preach simplicity, he lived it. And this simplicity brought with it a kind of resilience that allowed him to withstand the pressures of society. He believed that by stripping away the excess, you could see clearly what was truly important. When the noise of society is silenced, and you're left with only yourself and your values, that's where resilience is born. Today's world is full of distractions: social media, peer pressure, expectations from family and friends. It's easy to feel like you need to do more, be more, and have more. But Antisthenes reminds us that true strength comes from simplifying. When you focus on what you can control, your actions, your thoughts, your reactions, you build a kind of resilience that can't be shaken by the opinions of others or the ups and downs of life. If Fronto taught us how to communicate, and Antisthenes taught us how to live simply, Hippias shows us the importance of mastering the mind. Hippias's lessons went beyond just memory. He taught his students that mastering the mind meant being in control of their thoughts. And this, in many ways, ties back to the teachings of both Fronto and Antisthenes. Whether you're practicing memory techniques, focusing on simplicity, or learning how to communicate effectively, it all comes down to mental discipline. The mind is powerful, and if you can learn to master it, you can navigate any challenge life throws your way. By now, we've explored the teachings of three remarkable figures from history: Fronto, Antisthenes, and Hippias. Each of them offers something unique, but together they form a powerful formula for building resilience and strength in your life. Fronto teaches us that resilience comes from self-reflection, communication, and mental toughness. Antisthenes shows us that true strength is found in simplicity and living a life true to our values. And Hippias reminds us that the mind is our greatest tool, and by mastering it, we can overcome any challenge. You're going to face challenges, whether it's school pressure, relationships, or figuring out who you are. But the lessons from these ancient thinkers still apply today. You don't need to be perfect, and you don't need to have all the answers. What you do need is resilience, clarity, and mental discipline. How can you apply these ancient lessons to your life today? 1. Practice self-reflection. Just like Fronto encouraged Aurelius to reflect on his actions and choices, you can do the same. Take time each day, even just 5 minutes, to reflect on what went well, what didn't, and what you can learn from it. This builds resilience because you're constantly learning and growing from your experiences. 2. Simplify your life. Antisthenes reminds us that life doesn't need to be complicated. Take a look at your daily routine, your relationships, and your goals. What's really important? What's just noise? By simplifying, you'll find that you have more mental energy and focus for the things that truly matter. 3. Master your mind. Hippias's memory techniques may seem ancient, but they work. Try using visualization techniques to help you remember important information or to prepare for challenging situations. And remember, mental discipline isn't just about memory. It's about training your mind to stay focused and calm, even in stressful situations. Marcus Aurelius wasn't born the perfect leader. In fact, he faced a lot of failure early on. One of the most poignant moments in his development came from his mentor, Marcus Cornelius Fronto. Fronto was well aware that young Aurelius felt the immense pressure of ruling an empire, and with that pressure came the fear of failure. But Fronto didn't shy away from these difficult topics. He reminded Aurelius that failure wasn't something to be avoided, but something to be embraced. "Don't fear failure," Fronto once said to Aurelius. "It's not the end. It's the beginning of understanding." These words stayed with Marcus Aurelius throughout his reign. He faced countless setbacks, wars, political betrayals, even a deadly plague that threatened to destabilize the empire. But with Fronto's words echoing in his mind, Aurelius learned to see each failure as an opportunity to grow and to learn. He didn't let failure define him. He used it as fuel for self-improvement. Fronto's teachings are a powerful reminder for you today. Failure isn't something to fear. Whether it's a bad grade, a lost opportunity, or a personal disappointment, it's part of the process. Every failure is a chance to grow, to get better, and to understand yourself more deeply. The key is to approach failure the way Fronto taught Aurelius, with humility, reflection, and a commitment to improvement. Antisthenes, too, had a unique perspective on failure, though his approach was even more radical. He believed that failure was nothing more than an illusion created by society's expectations. In his view, the only true failure was failing to live in accordance with your values. Antisthenes once encountered a man who was deeply ashamed of his financial troubles. The man confided in Antisthenes, saying he felt like a failure because he couldn't keep up with the wealthy elite in Athens. Antisthenes listened patiently before responding, "You are rich in things, but poor in virtue." For Antisthenes, success wasn't about wealth, status, or external achievements. It was about living a life true to oneself, without being swayed by the opinions of others. This is an incredibly important lesson for anyone, but especially for us today. We live in a world where social media and peer pressure constantly push us to compare ourselves to others, to chase material success or popularity. Antisthenes reminds us to take a step back. Are you living a life that's true to you? Are you making decisions based on your own values? Or are you chasing after what society tells you to? By rejecting the fear of failure, by not letting society define what success or failure looks like, you can find a deeper sense of peace and purpose. While Fronto and Antisthenes focused on the moral and philosophical aspects of resilience, Hippias of Elis was concerned with something more practical. One of his most famous students once asked him how he was able to retain so much information with such ease. Hippias, ever the showman, demonstrated his technique by reciting from memory entire passages from Homer's Iliad, leaving his audience in awe. But Hippias didn't perform this feat to show off. He used it as an opportunity to teach his students that memory was something to be trained, not feared. The mind is like a well-ordered library, he told them, and with practice, you can retrieve any book you need. Hippias's memory techniques were more than just party tricks. They were tools for mastering life's challenges. He taught his students to visualize information in vivid, memorable ways, creating mental pathways that would make recall easier. This technique, now known as the method of loci, is still used today by memory champions and public speakers alike. But the real power of Hippias's teachings wasn't just about remembering facts. It was about the discipline of the mind. He believed that a strong memory led to a strong mind, and a strong mind could withstand anything. This mental discipline is something that can be incredibly useful for us today, whether it's studying for exams, preparing for presentations, or simply organizing your thoughts in a world full of distractions. Training your memory can give you an edge. Each of these thinkers faced immense challenges in their own lives, but what set them apart was their ability to not only survive these challenges, but to thrive in the face of them. Fronto taught his students to embrace failure as a stepping stone to success. Antisthenes showed us that true strength comes from rejecting societal pressures and living authentically. And Hippias gave us the tools to train our minds and master our thoughts. So how do these lessons apply to your life today? First, recognize that life is full of ups and downs. You're going to fail sometimes, and that's okay. Fronto's wisdom teaches us that failure is an opportunity to learn. Instead of letting failure knock you down, let it be the beginning of something better. Reflect on what went wrong, adjust your approach, and keep moving forward. Next, simplify your life. Antisthenes reminds us that much of the pressure we feel is self-inflicted. You don't need to have the latest gadgets, the best clothes, or the most followers to be successful. What matters is living a life that aligns with your values. Take time to reflect on what's truly important to you, and let go of the things that don't serve you. Finally, master your mind. Hippias's memory techniques show us that the mind is powerful, but it needs to be trained. Whether you're preparing for an exam or simply trying to stay focused in a noisy world, practicing mental discipline can help you stay sharp and in control. Imagine you're facing a tough situation at school, university, or job certification. Maybe you failed a major test, and now you're worried that you're going to fall behind. It feels like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, and you're not sure how to move forward. First, remember Fronto's advice. Don't fear failure. Instead, take this as a learning opportunity. What went wrong? Did you not prepare enough? Were you too distracted? Reflect on your mistakes and use them to adjust your approach for the next test. Failure isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new strategy. Next, think of Antisthenes. Are you putting unnecessary pressure on yourself because of external expectations? Maybe you're comparing yourself to your classmates, worried about what others will think if you don't perform well. But Antisthenes would tell you to focus on your own path. What matters isn't how others see you, it's how you live according to your values. Simplify your approach, focus on what you can control, and let go of the rest. Finally, apply Hippias's memory techniques. Maybe part of the reason you struggled on the test was that you couldn't retain the information. Take a page from Hippias's book and practice visualizing the material in a way that makes it stick. Create mental pathways that make it easier to recall information, whether it's through associations, imagery, or mnemonic devices. By combining these lessons, you can face this challenge head on and not only overcome it, but come out stronger on the other side. Mentorship played a huge role in Fronto's teachings, and it's a theme that continues to resonate today. Fronto's relationship with Marcus Aurelius wasn't just that of teacher and student. It was a deep, intellectual companionship that shaped both men. One of the most powerful aspects of this mentorship was the way Fronto pushed Aurelius to question everything. He didn't just hand Aurelius answers, he made him work for them. In one of their famous exchanges, Fronto asked Aurelius what he thought the greatest challenge of leadership was. When Aurelius responded with the expected answer, war, politics, or public unrest, Fronto simply shook his head. "No," Fronto said. "The greatest challenge is yourself." This moment had a profound impact on Aurelius, forcing him to reflect on his own weaknesses, his ego, and his fears. It was a reminder that the hardest battles are often internal, and that true leadership begins with mastering oneself. For you, finding a mentor who can challenge you in this way can be incredibly valuable. Whether it's a teacher, a coach, a successful entrepreneur, your boss, or even a parent, having someone in your life who pushes you to think deeper and reflect on your actions can help you navigate the challenges of your life with more confidence and clarity. Antisthenes was also a firm believer in the power of community, though his view was slightly different from Fronto's. Antisthenes believed that the people you surround yourself with have a profound impact on your values and your mindset. He famously said, "The most necessary thing for a man is to live among people who understand him." For Antisthenes, it wasn't about having a large circle of friends. It was about having the right friends. He believed that true friendship was based on shared values and mutual respect, not on convenience or social status. He encouraged his students to be selective about who they let into their lives, advising them to seek out friends who would push them to be better, not those who would lead them astray. Antisthenes' teachings on friendship are incredibly relevant for us today. With the constant pressure to fit in and be part of the in crowd, it's easy to lose sight of what really matters. But Antisthenes reminds us that the people we surround ourselves with can either help us grow or hold us back. Surround yourself with those who understand you, who share your values, and who challenge you to be the best version of yourself. Hippias of Elis, with his focus on memory and mental discipline, provides another critical layer to this story. While Fronto and Antisthenes focused on character and community, Hippias understood that none of it would matter without the ability to control and sharpen the mind. His approach wasn't just about recalling facts. It was about building a disciplined mind that could handle life's complexities. One of Hippias's most famous students struggled with managing his emotions during debates. He would often become frustrated or flustered when he couldn't recall certain points or arguments. Hippias observed this and decided to teach the student a technique that would not only improve his memory, but also his composure under pressure. He introduced the student to the method of loci, guiding him through the process of building a mental palace where he could store important information. The technique wasn't just about memory. It was about structure, about having a mental framework to rely on when things became chaotic. Hippias sat the student down and asked him to close his eyes. He then instructed him to imagine walking through a familiar place, his childhood home, for instance, and to place pieces of information in different rooms. By the end of the exercise, the student could recall each piece of information with ease. But more than that, the exercise gave him confidence. Knowing that he had a system in place helped him stay calm and composed during debates. He no longer had to worry about forgetting critical points because he had trained his mind to be organized and disciplined. For everyone today, this lesson is invaluable. In a world full of distractions, social media, notifications, constant noise, it's easy to feel scattered, like your mind is pulled in 100 different directions. But by building mental discipline, you can take control of your thoughts and focus on what really matters. Whether it's using memory techniques like Hippias's method of loci, or simply practicing mindfulness and meditation, strengthening your mind is a powerful tool for navigating life's challenges. Let's talk about something everyone faces at some point: criticism. Whether it's from peers, authority figures, or even family, criticism can sting. But Fronto, Antisthenes, and Hippias each offer unique insights into how to deal with it. Fronto once told Aurelius, "The words of others have no power unless you give it to them." He believed that criticism was inevitable, especially for someone in a leadership position. But how you react to that criticism is entirely up to you. Aurelius took this advice to heart, learning to filter out the noise and focus only on the feedback that helped him grow. For Antisthenes, criticism was something to be embraced. He was known for his sharp tongue and his ability to dish out blunt truths, even when they weren't easy to hear. But he was equally open to receiving criticism. He once said, "I prefer the bite of truth to the caress of flattery." For him, criticism was a tool for self-improvement, a way to cut through the nonsense and get to the heart of what really mattered. Hippias, on the other hand, dealt with criticism in a more intellectual way. As a sophist, he was constantly engaged in debates, and criticism was part of the job. But instead of getting defensive, Hippias saw criticism as an opportunity to sharpen his arguments. He welcomed challenges because they forced him to think more deeply and refine his ideas. Together, these three figures teach us that criticism isn't something to fear, it's something to learn from. Whether you're being criticized for your performance in school, your job, your decisions, or even your appearance, the key is to focus on what's useful and let go of the rest. Not all criticism is valid, but all criticism can teach you something if you're open to it. At the core of the teachings of Fronto, Antisthenes, and Hippias is the idea of resilience. Each of them, in their own way, faced significant challenges and adversity, yet they came out stronger on the other side, and they taught their students to do the same. Fronto's resilience came from his ability to adapt and grow. As an orator and teacher, he constantly refined his methods, learning from each student and each experience. He didn't let setbacks define him. Instead, he used them to fuel his growth. Antisthenes' resilience was rooted in his simplicity and rejection of societal norms. By focusing on what he could control and letting go of the rest, he built an unshakable foundation of strength. His ability to stand firm in his values, even when the world around him was chaotic, made him a model of resilience. Hippias's resilience came from his mental discipline. He knew that the mind was the most powerful tool we have, and by mastering it, he could face any challenge with confidence. His memory techniques and intellectual rigor gave him the edge he needed to thrive in a competitive and often hostile environment. Building resilience is about taking these lessons and applying them to your own life. You're going to face challenges, some big, some small, but the way you approach them will determine your success. Resilience isn't about never falling down. It's about always getting back up. At this point, you're probably wondering how you can take all of these lessons from Fronto, Antisthenes, and Hippias and apply them in your own life. Here are some practical steps you can start taking today. Build a support system. Just like Marcus Aurelius had Fronto, you need people in your life who will challenge you and help you grow. This could be a mentor, a teacher, a coach, or even a trusted friend. Surround yourself with people who understand you and push you to be better. 2. Embrace simplicity. Antisthenes reminds us that life doesn't need to be complicated. Take a look at your life and ask yourself what really matters. What are the things that bring you joy? And what are the things that just add stress? Focus on what's important and let go of the rest. 3. Train your mind. Whether it's through memory techniques, mindfulness, or simple mental exercises, training your mind is one of the best ways to prepare for life's challenges. Practice focusing your thoughts, staying calm under pressure, and organizing information in a way that makes it easy to recall. 4. Learn from criticism. Criticism is inevitable, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. The next time someone criticizes you, instead of getting defensive, ask yourself what you can learn from it. Use it as an opportunity to grow and improve. 5. Embrace failure. Fronto taught Aurelius that failure isn't the end, it's the beginning of learning. When you fail, don't beat yourself up. Reflect on what went wrong, make adjustments, and try again. Failure is a stepping stone to success. 6. Practice resilience. Life is going to knock you down. That's a given. But resilience isn't about avoiding challenges. It's about facing them head on and coming out stronger. When you encounter adversity, remind yourself that you have the strength to get through it, and that each challenge is an opportunity to grow. The teachings of Fronto, Antisthenes, and Hippias may be centuries old, but their wisdom is timeless. They understood that life is full of challenges, but they also knew that with the right mindset, anyone can overcome those challenges and come out stronger. As you navigate your own journey, remember the lessons they've shared with us. Build resilience, simplify your life, and master your mind. Whether you're dealing with stress, personal challenges, or the complexities of getting older, these ancient philosophers offer a roadmap to not only survive but thrive. You're stronger than you think, and with the guidance of Fronto, Antisthenes, and Hippias, you have everything you need to navigate life's biggest challenges and come out stronger on the other side.